Okay, getting ready to print this test ring that's loaded. It's an STL file. A whole bunch of stuff dripping out of the nozzle already. My question is why does it just keep going back and forth in a straight line? It's supposed to print a test ring. I don't know what this means. I don't know if this will reveals anything to what's going on or not. I guess these are the commands that have been issued so far. I would think there would be more that would accumulate, but then again, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the software or 3D printers. I ran the bed leveling procedure as the book says. And zeroed it out. Offset to make up for the where is it? Between the distance between the tack switch and the actual printer head. It was called the Z axis offset. But for some reason, every file I choose, it just wants to print in a straight line. A lot of times it just ends up popping off of the build plate after a while, and that's it. I can click cancel in here when something goes wrong, but the display on the ANYCUBIC always continues to show printing. I don't see any cancel or any way to clear it other than unplugging the power supply. It's crazy. It'll just keep saying printing. Printing, printing, printing. And oh, see, the stuff, it just fell over. Back and forth, back and forth. What could be the deal? I mean, all of the stepper motors move. I mean, the home and the leveling and all that shows that the stepper motors are getting a command and responding to that command, but why aren't the access commands being transferred to the print head? Okay, this ring is supposed to be finished now. It's an STL file that I loaded. I didn't know what exactly the files were on this SD card, so I transferred the STL files off of this card onto my thumb drive, where I was able to then load them into Cura here and view and see what they were. Just since I was having a problem with it just printing in a straight line, I thought, great, I found one that is a circle. Let's see if the print head goes round circular pattern, but that's what I'm left with. It's a bunch of crap. Now keep in mind, I've never had a 3D printer. This printer was given to me. See if I could get it to work. And if I could get it to work, the guy said he would sell it to me really cheap. But I don't know, it's just crazy. Whenever I try to load, if I try to load a file, I tried loading a file off the card before, and it caused the print head to come down and crash into the side rail here. When I inspected that file, after transferring it off of the card onto the thumb drive, it was called a G-code file. Now, when I tried to load that G-code file into Cura, it loads, and the image appears kind of like in a stacked formation. It builds it up in front of your eyes within a fraction of a second, and then you see the image stationary. Now, this particular file had a .stl extension. It didn't say G-code, so I don't know if the interface in here, when reading from the card, is what makes it crash into the side rail. And if I was to load the G-code same file in Cura, if I wouldn't have the problem with it coming down and crashing into the rail at the start of the print. So far, whenever I load something in Cura, the print head has never come down on an angle and crashed into the side rail, side beam yet. So it makes me wonder what's going on down here. So I've been trying to use the Cura. I've set all of the basic and advanced tab settings to what the book says that they should be set at. That's where they're at. Still no luck. Also, another question I have is, okay, come with this power supply. It's hardwired directly in, and you got an on-off switch. However, the display unit will not turn on just by turning on this power supply. It must also have the USB cable connected so it can get 5 volts from that line. So it's, in a sense, I have no power switch to turn it, one power switch to turn the thing on and off with, like you would expect with any kind of electrical device. I gotta turn main power supply on here first, then I have to plug this into a live USB port on my computer. Then the display lights up when the USB is plugged in. But I've noticed down here on the board, got a DC barrel jack, which makes me believe that This thing could be ran standalone without a computer, just printing from the SD card. If I was to have, I would assume, a 5-volt power supply with a 5-volt DC power supply with the correct size barrel plug wired to the correct polarity. And of course, that power supply would have to have a high enough amperage capacity at 5 volts to run the electronics and turn on the display. So I'm assuming that's what the jack's for. On the side is for standalone printing. When you print off of SD card and you don't have it hooked to a computer, such as I do now with the 5 volts operational voltage being provided here. Of course, that provides the data, the transfer, the print over. So if I'm wrong on that, let me know, please. It must be an optional accessory or something, that power cube. For the DC barrel jack, if you don't want to operate it from a computer. And if that was the case, I suppose if that power supply had a power switch on it, you click that on, bam, it would come on. And then I guess you would just have to be smart enough to know to just have this left on. I mean, the book doesn't mention anything about which one you turn on first, this, or in the case of being hooked to a computer, then plug in this, or plug this, your USB in first, and then turn on your power supply. Or if you're not using a USB cord, you supply power to your DC barrel jack via an external power supply. Apply that first and then click this on. How's this thing supposed to work? I mean, what's the... How do other people do it? It just kind of seems not very well thought out. Maybe I'm missing something, but if anybody could help me, I certainly would appreciate it. I don't know what's going on with this, why it won't print a cube. I mean, why it won't print, well, for that matter, a ring, cube, or anything. All it does is just go back and forth, back and forth. Prints garbage like this. It prints straight lines. One print for the test cube, it built up a it's like a little like a postage stamp, just a straight little square, about 1/16 of an inch thick, if even that, until it broke loose off the bed, and that's all she wrote. I'm just getting height out of the print. I'm not getting any dimensions besides height. I mean, this is all supposed to be about 3D, right? I don't understand what could be wrong with this machine. It's frustrating. Thank you for listening. Sorry for being overly long with this presentation. I normally don't do YouTube videos. Of course, I'm doing this with my smartphone, so Anyways, if anybody could help me, give me any insight into why it could be printing this way, I would certainly help. Thank you.